What's up everybody, Johnny B here with DevSolves.com, and we are going to continue on with our Where's the Food Truck Android app. In the last video, we got our Volley GET request going, and we are retrieving food trucks. So now let's go ahead and make our recycler view so that we can actually see them when we run the app. So that's what we are going to do in this video. So let's get started. So with recycler views, first thing we're going to need to do is let's go ahead and import our dependencies that are required. And the quickest way to do this that I like to do is I'll just open up a browser. Let's open up Google, and I'll just say recycler view compile. And let's see, let's grab this support library features. And I'm going to search for recycler view. Okay, so, and the reason I do this is because these are constantly changing, the versions of the libraries. And so I'm just going to grab this here, I'm going to copy it, I'm going to run back to Android, I'm going to paste it in here. So there is our, whoops, forgot the compile, and then single quotes. There we go. And then I need to spell compile correctly, of course. There we go, compile. And then the second one that we need is we are also going to need card views. So recycler views, if you aren't familiar, if you're familiar with iOS, those are pretty much the same thing as table views. And so if you open up any list type app, it's just the type of widget that lets you scroll through and has individual rows. Okay, so the recycler view is the list as a whole, and then we're going to be working with card views, which lets you customize the rows appearance. Okay, so then I'm going to open back up Chrome View again, and that dependency is going to be called card view, and here we have it right here, com.android.support card view version 25.01. Go back to Android Studio and paste that in right here, and see if I can increase the font size. There we go. Now you guys should be able to see that better. Alright, so now we have our recycler view and card view dependencies. Let's go ahead and let's sync it. I'm going to sync that and wait a few seconds. Alright, so now we are all synced up, so let's go ahead and create some of our classes that we're going to need. So working with recycler views, we need a couple of helper classes, and those are called adapters and holders. So right-clicking on our main package, I'm going to say new package. I'm going to call this one adapter, and a second package, and call this holder. And then let's just start creating those. So inside of adapter, right-clicking on the folder adapter, I'm going to say new Java class. I'm going to call this food truck adapter. Okay, and so the food truck, or the adapters for recycler view, is kind of the controller. This is where you're going to say, how long the list is with the get item count method. You're going to this is where we construct the recycler, and we're going to receive an array list parameter. This is where we set the views, and where we can handle on-click events when someone clicks on an individual row in the recycler view, what happens when they click. And so that's what the adapter does. Okay, so first we got to make an adapter, and we do that by saying extends and recycler view dot adapter, and we just so then we got to say recycler view dot adapter, and so we're going to get some red here because we need to implement a few things. And what is actually needs to go here into this recycler view dot adapter, what needs to go here is our holder. So let's go and make our holder first. So I'm going to right click on our holder package, say new Java class. I'm going to call this food truck holder. Okay. And let's see what we need to put in there. Okay, so our food truck holder, this is more of the UI part of it. This is where we're going to set our UI elements. So if we have a card view that has, our card view has the name of the truck, the average cost, and the what's the other one? The food type. And so this is where we're going to handle all of that. So let's turn this into a view holder. So I'm going to say extends, and I'm going to say recycler view holder. Okay, and now we are getting an error here that is saying that there is no default constructor, so we need to create that. We're going to say public. We're going to say food truck holder. And we're going to say view item view. I'm going to say super item view. There we go, and that should get rid of our error, and we'll come back to the holder in a minute. So coming back to our adapter, now we can pass in our food truck holder. There we go. So now the errors that we're getting is that it's telling us we need to implement some methods, okay? And why did my font go small again? All right, so we need to implement some methods. So we need onCreate view holder. So this is the method that is called when we create the holders, and that's fine to return null for now. What else do we need? Hovering over, it looks like we need item count. Get item count, and returning 0 is fine for now. And lastly, we need onBind view holder. Okay, all right, so that's looking good. Now we don't have any errors. So what do these do? onBind view holder, this is where we are going to handle any on item click listener events. Get item count is pretty straightforward. This just returns the number of items in our list, and then our onCreate view holder, this is where we pass in our information that will be used to modify each row's user interface, or the for the name and the average cost and food type fields. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and create our recycler view and our card view. So we're going to come over here to resources, and in layout, I'm going to right click on layout and say new layout resource file. And for the root element, I'm going to make this a relative layout, and this we are going to call food or recycler food truck. Okay, and that looks good. I'm going to press OK. We're going to come here into the text, and here we're going to say, let's see if we can get this to auto-populate, recycler, there we go. Widget auto, we're going to say match parent, and let's give it an ID. So we're going to say Android, comma, or colon. Oops, I'm outside of our, okay. So I'm going to come here and say Android ID, and we're going to call this recycler food truck. Oh, forgot the @ID. There we go. Recycler food truck. So there's our ID for it. All right, so that's our recycler view, and that looks good. Then we're going to right click on layout again and say new layout resource file, and this is going to be our card view. So for the file name, I'm going to say card underscore food truck, and our root element is going to be card, and then it auto populates for widget card view. I'm going to select that and say OK. And then we'll probably get some of these errors. Let's try refreshing the layout. All right, that worked. And then here in our card view, I'm going to throw in a constraint layout. So here we go, constraint layout, and then it'll say add project dependencies, say OK. And it's going to sync our Gradle, and then we are able to drag that on. And then we'll get us some more rendering problems. I'm going to say refresh, that's fine. Add constraint layout, that's fine. I'm going to try building. Come on. Build, leave me alone. Build. Alright, so Gradle is building. Okay, so now we can get to work. So for our constraint layout, I think I'm going to make the, first let's set our constraint layout height. I think let's try maybe 85. That looks about good. For our card view, also layout height 85. And then here in our constraint layout, let's go ahead and add our text views that we're going to be using. So I'm coming up here to the top. Let's see here, widgets, text view. I'm going to change the text here to say food truck, then colon, and I'm going to make the text size a bit bigger. I'm going to say 18, and we are going to change the text color to a darker gray, maybe something like this guy here, and I think that looks fine. And we're going to drag another text view in. It looks like we made our card view a little too small, so I'm going to come back up here to constraint layout, and I'm going to say 100 and change our card view to also 100. Actually, for our constraint layout, we can change this to match parent, and then we'll just update the size of the card view. So there we go. All right, so we got our second text view here, and this one is going to be our average cost. So I'm going to say average cost, colon, and then we need a third text view, and this one is going to be actually I got that backwards. Let's make our middle one our food type. There we go. And then for our text, or for our third one, let's make this one the average cost. Okay. And let's go ahead and make this one a slightly different color. We're going to make this one a dark green, I think. So text color, and choose a color, and we'll go this holo green dark. There we go. All right, so now let's go ahead and add some constraints to these. I'm going to zoom in here, and I think first I'm going to just copy them all and paste and see if that works. I don't think it, so let's try this individually, copy, paste. All right, that looks like that works. I'm going to drag it over here, food type, copy, paste, drag it over, average cost, copy, paste, drag it over. All right, so this one is going to be our name. So I'm just going to put something like Joe's Fine Dining. And for the food type, I'm going to put something like barbecue. And for the average cost, I'm going to say something like money sign $7.99. So these three fields, these are dynamic data that is going to be filled out from our food trucks database. And so we need to have identifiers on these. So this top one, I'm going to say food truck name. And this one here, I'm going to say food truck type. And this one here, I'm going to say food truck cost. All right, so now we have IDs. Now let's throw on some constraints. For this guy, I'm going to say from the top and from the left, I'm going to keep it at 16 and 16. And this guy here, I'm going to set its baseline constraint to, just kidding, I'm not going to set the baseline constraint, I'll just set the bottom to the bottom. And so then up next is our food type. Let's give ourselves a little bit more room here. Going to close our project here. And I'm going to say, I'm going to constrain it to the left and to the bottom of our food truck label. For the barbecue, I'm going to constrain it to the, well, let's keep going up here. I'm going to constrain the average cost to the bottom of food type. I'm going to give that a margin of 8. And then I'm going to constrain it to the left. And then for barbecue, I'm going to constrain it to the bottom of food type so that those are aligned. And the cost, I'm going to constrain to the bottom of cost. And got some jumping around here. And then for Joe's Fine Dining, I'm going to constrain it to the right of the food truck label. And I'm going to do the same for barbecue to the left of, to the right of food type, and for the cost to the right of average cost. So I think that's looking good. We have our food truck name, our food truck type, and our average cost. We have added our IDs to each of those so that we'll be able to access them in our code. And we're looking good on our card. So that looks good. What do we need to do next? I think let's set up our food truck holder again. So now that we have this information here filled out, we can go ahead and set up our update UI function. So let's do that here in our food truck holder. So we're going to first create our variables here that are going to correspond to our UI elements that we just created in the card view. So I'm going to say text view, and this is going to be truck name. Then we're going to need another one, which is a text view, and that is food type. Then we got another one, and this is also a text view, and this is average cost. Okay, so now we need to associate our variables that we just declared here with our ID and elements in the card view. So we're going to say this dot truck name is equal to a text view, and that text view we are going to find by we're going to say item view dot find view by ID, and that ID is r dot ID dot let's see here dot food truck name. There we go. I'm going to do this for the other two. So this dot food type is equal to text view, and that is in the item view dot find view by ID r dot ID dot let's see, that's food truck type, and we're going to say this dot what's the last one, average cost is equal to text view, that is in the item view dot find view by ID and r dot ID dot food truck cost. Alright, there we go. And lastly, once we're going to need an update UI function, so I'm going to say public void update UI, and this function is going to be called from our adapter. So as it is going through and filling up the rows, we're going to call this function, and we're going to pass into it a food truck that comes from our data, and we're going to say truck name dot set text, and actually let's just call this truck, and this is going to be truck dot get name. So this is utilizing our getters that we set up in our food truck model. And then we have food type dot set text and truck dot get food type. And lastly, our average cost dot set text. We're going to say quotes money sign plus truck dot get average cost. Alright, so there is our there's our view holder all set up and ready to go. I'm going to save that, and let's work on our adapter a little bit more. So with our adapter, we need a constructor, and we're going to pass into that constructor a list of data that is going to come from our Volley API call. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to create an array list, and that array list is of type food truck, and we're going to call that trucks. Okay, and then we need to create a constructor, so we're going to say public food truck adapter, and we're going to accept as a parameter for that array list, and that array list is of type food truck, and we're going to call that trucks, and we're saying this dot trucks is equal to trucks. So just to go over this a little bit, in our activity, we're going to create a food truck adapter, and we are going to pass into that food truck adapter an array of trucks, which we created here. So we're going to pass in food truck list into this adapter. This adapter is then going to set that array to this private array, and that is what is going to be used in our other methods right here, okay? So in our onBind view holder, we're going to say final, and we're going to use a food truck. I'm going to call it truck, and we are going to get the truck that corresponds to this row's position. And so we're just grabbing it out of an array. I'm going to say get, and the integer position is created right here in our method itself. It's called position. And so now we have the specific truck from our API data that corresponds to the row that is being constructed here. Okay, so then we're going to say holder, which is our food truck holder that we created, and this is where we call our update UI function that we just created, and we're going to pass into that update UI function this truck. So now, as it's going through and it's creating the rows, it says, okay, we are on the first row. So I'm going to grab the first truck from the array that was passed into our adapter, which is the first JSON object in our API. Then we have created a food truck class from that data, and we are passing that into our update UI function, which then sets up the UI for that specific row. So pretty cool. And then we can go ahead and set up our onClick listener. So we're going to say holder.set and that's all we need to do for now with the onBind view holder. Later on we're going to handle what happens when you click right here, but for now we don't need to do that. So for the get item count, we're just going to say return trucks dot size, and so that's just counting up how many items there are in this food truck array that we are passing into our adapter, and returning that number so that it knows how many to do. And then so here in our food truck holder, this is where we need to initialize a view for the card view. So we're going to say view, we're going to call it truck card. I'm going to say layout inflator, so we are going to inflate a view, and we are getting it from the parent.getContext. So we're getting it from the parent, and we're going to inflate it, and the view that we're going to inflate is r.layout, whoopsie, r.layout.card food truck, which is what we created. And we're going to pass in parent and then say false. And there we have it. We have our truck card created, and then all we need to do is return a new one. So we're going to say return new food truck holder and pass in the truck card that we just created. All right, so we're getting there. We have our adapter set up. We have our holder set up. We have our card set up, and we have our recycler set up, but we need to have it show up in our main activity. So I'm going to open up our activity food trucks. I'm going to delete this text view, and then here in our, going to come in here into text, and we need to include our recycler view. So I'm going to say include, and I'm going to say include layout Android. Actually, we want include layout, and this is the one we want, at layout recycler food truck. Okay, and let's just try that. So let's try saving that. See what our design looks like. That looks fine, and I believe that that's all we need to do for right here anyways. Now we need to do a little bit more in our food truck lists activity. We need to actually create references to our recycler view. So let's do that. We can do that right here for now. Like I said, we're going to refactor this at the beginning of the next lesson to make it all a little bit more modular, but just to get things up and going for now, we're going to do it like this. We're going to say recycler view, and we are going to create it. I'm going to call it recycler view, and this is going to be a recycler view. And the recycler view is find view by ID, and that is r.id recycler food truck. So now we have created it and gotten the reference to it. Then we are going to just set up a few parameters for the recycler views. So I'm going to say recycler view dot set has fixed size, and I'm going to say true. And this is just for efficiency and for optimization. If you know that the rows are the same, then you can set this, and it just makes it go a little bit faster. Then I'm going to go ahead and create our new adapter. So I'm going to say adapter is, actually I need to create that adapter up here. So now I'm going to create our adapter. So come on up here. Let's create a section for variables. I'm going to say private food truck adapter, and we're going to call it adapter. And that's going to be just declared right here. And let's go ahead and initialize it. So I'm going to say adapter is equal to new food truck adapter. And remember, this is where we pass in our list of food trucks that we just created, which in this activity is called, what did we call it? Food truck list. So this is the list that we're going to pass in. So food truck list. And then we need to do create a layout manager so it knows what orientation it is. Linear layout manager, and that's going to be called layout manager, and that is going to be equal to a new linear layout manager. And we're going to get we need the context. So I'm going to say this. Actually, I'm going to say get base context because we are inside of a method. And then we are going to go ahead and set the orientation on our layout manager dot set orientation, and that is linear layout manager dot vertical. That's the one we want. All right, almost there. And then we're going to say recycler view dot set layout manager, and that is layout manager. All right, that looks good. And let me see if I forgot anything. We have all of our recycler view information set up. We've created our adapter, our food truck holder. We have all of this. Probably forgot something. That was a lot to go over without being able to run any tests. That's the thing about these recycler views. There's not really much that you can test until you have everything written out, and then just debug as you go along. So I'm going to press play, and we're going to run this on our Nexus 5 on API 24. And we are not showing anything, so obviously I forgot something. So let's find out what that was. All right, right off the bat, I can see that we forgot to set the adapter. We created it, but we did not set it. So I'm going to say recycler view dot set adapter, and that adapter is our adapter. So I'm going to save that and rerun. Hey, and there we have a mess. So we are showing we have some rows, but our layout is obviously screwed up. So let's go ahead and see what happened there. Sometimes the constraint layout is still pretty buggy, so let's see if that messed something up. I'm gonna come over here, check out our card food truck, and yep, looks like it deleted some of our constraints. And you'll find that this happens sometimes. It's annoying. I'm sure it'll get better though. So we'll just add those constraints back on. So food truck to the left, food truck to the bottom of that, and set that back to the left of that, and realign those to the bottom. So those are back realigned, that's hooked up, that's hooked up. All right, let's try that again. All right, there we go. That looks better. Awesome, so there you have it. We have ourselves a nice recycler view showing up. I don't like this padding that is around the side, and I think we want a gap between here. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. I'm going to open up our main activity, which is our activity food trucks list, And I'm going to get rid of all of this padding here. So we got padding. All right, that's gone. Now for our spaces that we want between our rows, unfortunately there's not a simple recycler view dot add space equals 10 pixels or something. We have to work with what are called item decorators. So let's go ahead and create one of those. Here in this package, I'm going to create a new package and call it view. And here in view, I'm going to create a new Java class. I'm going to call this item decorator. All right, and this extends recycler view dot item decoration. Okay, and we're going to make it flexible so that we can, if we decide we want to use it for left and right, top and bottom, so we're going to go ahead and create it for to make it more usable. And you can use you can go ahead and use this in any projects that you have, so you'll have a nice flexible item decorator, and you'll see how it works in just a minute. So we're going to create variables for left, top, right, and bottom. All right, so and these are going to all be integers. I'm going to say left, and then just to save a little bit of time, I'm going to copy this and paste it 3 more times. So left, top, right, and bottom. And what are you yelling at us for? Left might not have been initialized, that's fine. And then let's go ahead and create a constructor for this and generate a constructor, selecting them all, and there we go. So left, top, right, bottom. And then we're going to use a get item offsets method. This is part of the item decoration, and I'm going to say for here, that looks good, and all we're going to do is set the outrect dot set, and we're going to say left, top, right, bottom. All right, so all this does is set the offsets, and we need to pass into it left, top, right, bottom, which is why we created all of these right here. And let's save that and come back to our food truck lists activity, and right down here at the bottom of our recycler view info, we're going to say recycler view dot add item decoration. We're going to say new item, cancel, Apple Z, new item decorator, and we need to go ahead and pass in left, top, right, and bottom space holders that we want. And we only want it at the bottom, so we're just going to pass in zeros for the other. And I think 10 will look good, so I'm going to save that and rerun it. So just to recap what we did here, we removed the padding around the outside, and we added a spacer between the rows, specifically at the bottom by 10. All right, so let's open that up and see how that looks. And there we go, no padding on the outsides, and we have this nifty little gap in between each row, and I think that is looking real good. So we are making some great progress here. If you are a little bit confused still, go back through and just review the adapter and the holder, and just try to get it all meshed together, how those work together. Basically, you have an adapter that is the controller, you have the holder which handles the UI, and then you have the card that handles the actual UI that is presented to the viewer. Okay, so not too bad, and we're making some good progress here. Next up, we're going to handle what happens when you click on these, because right now it's not doing anything. And we're going to create a new activity to display further information and a map for where these food trucks are located. All right, so we will see you in the next one.